Welcome, one and all, to the 6th episode of the YankandKiwi podcast. We are your hosts.
Shit,
Brett.
we're at 6 already?
Yes, we are, and Sam. Now, let's get to the introductions. Your hosts, Brett,
Yes.
the handsome and charismatic one.
And Sam, the one who never shuts up and who is nominally at least the funny one. And the one who doesn't have a receding hairline at a very young age.
Yeah, but you're
I'm
short.
sorry, that was a low blow.
Yeah, well, you're short.
I really am. I'm like either just below or just above 5'4", an American.
Yeah, Sam is a dwarf.
I'm very short.
Sam is a real-life Tyrion Lannister.
Well, I was gonna go. If I had more body hair, the Hobbit jokes would just be they'd write themselves. Since I eat a lot, I'm slightly chubby and I'm very short.
Yeah, but you're just so bitter, cynical, and you got that razor wit. You're Tyrion Lannister.
Wait, am I show Tyrion or book Tyrion?
Okay, you're gonna have to explain what the difference is.
Book Tyrion is kind of a terrible person. Show Tyrion is massively whitewashed in terms of what he's like as a person, as compared to book Tyrion.
And well, to be fair, that's pretty much every George R. R. Martin character. They're all, at least the ones he writes, they're all terrible people to one degree or
Kind
another.
of. And that's part of what makes the books interesting.
Yeah, is there anyone in the Game of Thrones books that is really redeemable? At least, like a genuinely good person.
I mean, Jon is.
Yeah.
But as of the last book, he's dead. I think they brought him back on the show, but I don't know how they're going to do in the books. Because the writers for the show have killed off people who are still alive in the books.
Well,
and they did this seasons ago.
Yeah, well, also,
so they go
also
very
the
much
writers
their own way.
the writers did get the major plot points that Martin had planned out. So this may we'll have to wait.
This may or may not happen, but the other thing is they've had a lot of changes. Like, have you read the books?
No, have not had
They're
time
very,
to.
very good. They're well worth it, but yeah, they're very long. But Arya's story arc in the second book is completely, or rather, what she does in the second season is completely different than what happens to her in A Storm of Swords, which is the second book. To be fair, what happens to her in the second book, would have been really hard to do on TV. Oh, this makes it sound like it's really terrible. It's a different storyline that wouldn't have worked on TV as well as her hanging out with Tywin Lannister.
Yeah, I think
You're gonna if you do read the books, you're gonna have a really fun time when it comes to the Red Wedding chapter.
Oh boy.
Let's just say the TV version is massively toned down, and in the book it entirely it's a POV chapter from Catelyn's point of view, and she goes nuts and claws her own eyes out.
Holy shit.
At the end. Yeah.
I guess we'll just say you're book Tyrion. Because you are not that bad a person.
No, I'm show Tyrion. Book Tyrion is the worst person.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I meant show Tyrion. Yeah.
Like, show Tyrion, for example, kills Shay because he's, just overwhelmed and all. It's it's a shitty thing. But, Book Tyrion kills him because he's a jealous fuck. And, that's explicitly stated. That he kills her because he's a jealous, possessive fuckhead.
Yep. That. Although I think the one thing
you kind of get that in the show as well, but you also get the show doesn't want you to think that that's why he did it.
Yeah.
If you get me?
Yeah, I think the show seemed to more imply that he did it because she stabbed him in the back.
Yeah. But like if you watch it, you go, that doesn't make sense with his characterization. You go, this must have been why he did it. But the show tries to convince you side because the thing is, the show it's so popular and they're like he's the most popular character, and they're like, we can't have the most popular character be like hateable. And they try really hard.
They clearly have not watched The Walking Dead because apparently Negan has saved the ratings.
Man, and there's quite a few. What was I going to say as well? It's quite funny sometimes when they try to improve characters in Game of Thrones, the show, when they tried to do that as compared to A Song of Ice and Fire, the books, which they did with. I'm blanking on his name. He's one of my favorite characters. The Red Viper, the spear guy from Dawn.
Oh,
guy with the spear, the prince, Oberyn.
Oberyn, yes, Oberyn Terrell.
Oberyn.
Oh no,
Oberyn
Martell.
is way. Oberyn is in the show way more than he is in the books, and they tried really hard to make him just in the show the most awesome character ever, and he's still less badass and less awesome and less interesting than he is in the books. In the books, where he's barely in them.
In the books, does he still have that need to fuck anything with a pulse?
No, that is something that HBO added because boobs.
Well, I think the show also implied that he's had sex with men too.
Yes, the way the show works with sex is very different than the way the books works with sex. The show works with sex in a very exploitative,
I've heard
gratuitous way.
I would say that the sex scenes in Game of Thrones are actually borderline pornographic.
Yes. Now, even in the first 3 seasons, which I will say the first 3 seasons, some crack started showing season 3. Season 4 is a decent season, but some crack started to show again, or more so. Season 5, it shat the bed and I bailed. But even when the show was excellent, those sex scenes were gratuitous, and a lot of them. The book, it's more matter of fact and unsexy about them, right? Much like how the show has kind of gotten to a point where it's kind of misery porn. Terrible things have to happen to people because, all this, and you know how Sansa in the show.
Yep, I remember what you're talking about.
The story arc with her and Roose Bolton.
Yep,
I remember. Not Roose. Ramsay.
God, do I remember?
That's not her story arc. That's a totally different character's arc in the book. That's a friend of hers back before everything turned to shit suffers that. Right?
Kind of makes you wonder which is worse.
Oh, well, they're both terrible, but, one makes more sense. The book version makes more sense because what the show does is it just piles on all this suffering to characters who you like, and it gets ridiculous. And also, it adds suffering to, me, I'm the last person to cry misogynist. But the show takes away a lot of shitty things that happen to men and amplifies the shitty things that happen to female characters and adds shitty things that happens to them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's actively misogynist, but it is, and I'm not saying it's actively misogynistic. Yeah, I'm just saying.
I would say they probably did it because women are, let's face it, when a woman suffers, we're more likely to feel empathy.
Yeah, it strikes me as kind of cynical manipulation, but it does also have that kind of uncomfortable sort of implication of, ooh. Whereas in the books, everyone is treated shittily, and they're not treated shittily necessarily just to give you feels or get shocked, but because they live in a shitty world.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a wholly different approach. The books also have a lot more lore, and they're a lot richer, in character. And the show basically only hits you in the feels when terrible shit happens. The book has a lot of really poignant, little moments that really get you. Like, there's a moment where Davos... I don't think do his sons die in the show?
I think he only had one son, and yeah, he did die at the Battle
Okay.
of.
He has multiple sons. He has multiple sons in the books, and they all die. And then his first chapter in the third book, I think it is Davos being washed ashore, and just realizing that like all his sons are dead. He's failed his king, and he just basically feels like he has no reason to like be living anymore. Like it's the kind of thing that just isn't in the show. There's no depth of character comparatively. The show did some good stuff with character work early on, but
well, to be fair, there is stuff in the book that would also be very difficult to film.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, what I'm talking about is stuff. I mean, it's his internal thoughts, but there surely would. But basically, what I'm just saying is the quiet moments of sort of that hit you aren't really in. But hey, it's a show. It is what it is. I'm over being mad at it. Like season 5 shit the bed. I'm like, fuck it, I'm out. If people want to keep watching, cool. Enjoy it if you enjoy it, whatever. The books are better, but they're also totally different. So.
Well, I can say this much. Game of Thrones is probably, at least on a consistency level, it's better than, say, the new Berserk anime.
Wow, yeah, I mean, for one thing, it doesn't look like shit. You can look at it without your eyes bleeding.
Yeah. And
New Berserk anime, by the way, the thing people are saying is, oh my god, it's because it's CG that it looks like shit. No, it's not. It would look like shit even if it were conventional. Animated, even if it were non-CG, non-3D, because it's terribly directed. Yeah. The guy doesn't know how to frame a scene. Like, let alone
direct a dark, moody fantasy anime.
Dude, I saw 2 or 3 episodes, and I don't think he followed the rule of 180 once in a single scene.
No, he did not. Now,
do you remember the bar scene?
Yeah.
Where you literally can't keep perspective of who's where.
Yeah, we gotta stop for a second. For all the people who do not know what the rule of 180 is, it's it's a rule in filming.
Yeah, you explain.
Yeah, it's a rule in filming that you always try to that wherever the camera is, you always try to make sure it stays consistent. Let me put it this way: if you if you have one character from the left and another character from the right, you gotta make sure that the camera follows them in that general direction. Like you gotta shoot, like character on the left, you shoot from their left, and character from the right, you shoot from their right, so that everything feels consistent. Like you know where everything is in relation to one another.
Yes, indeed.
The guy who's directing the new Berserk anime does not do that ever.
No, and again, it's a low budget show. But hey, the first one was a low-budget show, and it didn't look like ass because it was well-directed.
Yes, and it understood that a lot of what makes Berserk good is that it's heavily violent, it's very graphic, but it also has a lot of these really quiet, much more understated and melancholic scenes.
Which didn't seem to be in what I saw of the new one at all.
It's not. It's hard.
Now, just to be clear, just so people know, I've not read the Berserk manga. I want to, but there's something like 37 volumes that have been officially released in English, and it's just like the time investment. I want to, but it's a massive time investment. So I've seen that original anime. I love it. It was minimalist. It knew how to do minimal animation and still be visceral and still pack a punch, but with the way it was shot and everything. But yeah, pun.
It was an anime that made do it with what it had.
Yeah, and Game of Thrones, again, I have serious issues with the writing and some of the casting later on, but it's generally at least well-directed and pretty to look at. Even when terrible things are happening.
And casted well.
Mostly, yeah. Some of the later casting I have issues with, but mostly, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I would... I'm just gonna say this: the new Berserk anime just reeks of otaku to me.
It reeks of, yeah. It reeks of a fan. You know those fanboys of certain shows or books or whatever who don't actually understand the thing they're fanboy obsessively in love with.
Yeah.
It reeks of someone like that that's the guy who directed it. It reads like it's directed by a guy like that.
Just you want to see what I'm talking about. Just look at the opening for the second season for the new Berserk anime, and it looks so stereotypical anime. Like if it, let me put it this way, if it did not have the Berserk name attached to it, I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, and in the defense of the not particularly great 3 CG movies, at least the second and third one looked decent. Like, the first one was janky as shit, but the second and third one were decently animated and had some really beautiful shots. Now, the pacing and the writing shit was not great. They weren't great movies, but
yeah, well, that's what happens when you compress, like, how many, like, 20-something volumes into 3 90-minute films.
Yeah, so it proved that you could take that aesthetic and do it in CG well once you got past the first movie, because that first movie is janky as shit. But the second and third movies look quite good. Yeah. And I'm not generally a CG animation fan. Like, I'm not even generally a fan of, like, Western CG animation, which tends to be at a higher standard. Because, so in Japan, when they animate with cell or with digital, they do it, and they do it at less frames per second than most Western animation. And so what they do is they do it all, and then they auto-generate it to cut out every second or third or fourth, whatever, frame, right? The reason Japanese CG, and anime in particular, tends to look so janky is they do the same thing with the CG. And the problem being, of course, with CG, every frame is the same. I mean, slightly different, but it's all the same proportions. There aren't the slight differences that you get if it's hand-drawn. And so it looks so janky. It works all right with hand-drawn because there's those slight differences. Or, hand-drawn on a computer, you know what I mean. Whereas with CG, the generated CG, it looks janky as shit because that needs to flow as smoothly as possible or it looks wrong.
And the thing is, it's easier to disguise when you hand draw it instead of CG animate. Yeah.
And the thing is, this is not likely to change because all the Japanese directors are convinced that this looks amazing. Now, because apparently there was a thing like a behind the scenes on Kill la Kill where they did that, where they showed them doing this. And they actually, after showing it without it being cut and then showing it with them doing this randomly cutting thing, the director's like, it looks so much better after this. And it looked terrible after it.
Oh my God.
But I'm not even a big fan of like Pixar, that kind of CG animation. It just, the aesthetic of it. Now, I like some CG animated stuff, but I'm not the biggest fan of the aesthetic. So when I say that those movies proved it was possible to transfer the Berserk aesthetic to CG animation, that's not a light thing for me to say. Because I'm not a fan of CG animation in general.
And the thing is, like, this is kind of the...
It can be used well, but I don't like it as the entire thing, generally,
The thing I was going to get at is, if you've ever looked at the Berserk manga, you see that the artwork it's very, very detailed, very rich.
Yes, it is in fact so detailed that the only two options are simplify it and do it digital or cell, depending on the era. I think the original was cell.
Yeah, the original, they simplified the designs down and just hand drew it, and that worked.
Yeah, or keep it complex and do it CG. Those are your only two options, realistically, to do it movement, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you still have to simplify it slightly either way, but less so the second. So the people who are like, it's always going to look shit, it was always going to look shit because it was in CG. No, it wasn't. But it is because clearly the budget wasn't there and the directing wasn't there to make it so that the budget... Here's the thing. The director's main other works have all been hand-drawn comedies.
I think they're also slice of life too.
With one exception. You know that Devil May Cry anime where they gave him a lowly sidekick?
Oh shit.
That was him. That show still has defenders from hardcore Devil May Cry fanboys.
Oh my god, you gotta be shitting me, because I don't know any Devil May Cry fan worth this salt that would defend that. I mean, they took the reboot to task as for lesser crimes.
I wish I was making this up, but I have seen people defend this thing. Speaking of people who miss the point of things, let's transition to, believe it or not, this is not a total non sequitur to what we've been watching.
No, it is not.
And I'm gonna start because I've been watching Cowboy Bebop. I watched the whole thing finally. It took me forever to get to it because I wanted to distance myself from the hype. If anyone ever wants to read hilariously bad reviews of something, the AV Club normally do really good write-ups of stuff, especially in the classic TV thing. They did Cowboy Bebop. The guy who wrote it was a fan who clearly missed the point of much of it and clearly misinterpreted many things. Like, in fact, like I read them just because they were hilariously bad. Like, okay, so you know Ganymede Elegy, the first Jetpack story episode.
Yes.
Where he goes back to Ganymede, and so when he goes after Alyssa, his ex's boyfriend, who has the bounty against him, right, and chases him down and all that. This reviewer said that it didn't make sense or seem in character that he would do that.
Yeah.
And also in the next Jet one, where we find out what happened to his arm, this guy goes, I never really got the sense that Jet was all that bothered about his arm.
Talk about missing the point. It's not the arm that's bugging him. It never was the arm.
Yeah. It's what the arm represents, which is why, back in Ballad of Fallen Angels, the first time he talks about it, it's why I think that's the episode where Faye. No, fuck. What is that? The episode where Faye asks him why he doesn't just get it fixed?
Don't remember that. Or repaired. Off the top of my head.
Whatever episode that's in, like the way he responds makes it very clear that it's what that. Like he's very terse and he's very. That's what that represents. But yes, Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, I mean, it's a case where it's like, well, of course I liked it. Of course it was good. Duh. I feel stupid saying, yeah, it's good. Everyone knows it.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. It's not perfect, but there's a lot about it that is perfect. I will say this. It took me a while to get into it. I watched the first episode, 2 weeks ago or so?
I believe so.
And I was like, this is not bad. But I didn't really have the compelling reason to watch the next one. I was a little bit bored. I have to be honest. Then watched the second one earlier in the week, probably about 5 days ago from recording. And I went, I'm still a little bored. And I watched the third one in a row, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit better. Faye shows up. Faye's entertaining. And then the next day I go to Brett and to our friend Dante, I go, got a confession to make. I'm finding it slightly boring. And you both go, give it an episode or two, it picks up. I'm like, okay, good, thank you. Because here's the thing, I was going to stick it out. I just wanted confirmation that I'm not nuts. That shows a little. And Deanta, in fact, kind of said what I was kind of feeling, where the first 2 or 3 episodes feel a little fillery. We're just introducing characters kind of thing. They're not bad episodes. They're just a little...
They don't have the spark.
Yeah. And then episode 4 comes with the eco-terrorists, and that is hilarious. And that's a big step up. And then, of course, Ballad of the Fallen Angels, and I go, oh, I get this show now. And in fact, Ballad of Fallen Angels, sorry. If Ballad of Fallen Angels were just even if that were just a one-off 25-minute short, that would be legendary, probably. It's that good.
That is easily my favorite episode of the entire show.
Yeah, as I said to you, I found it much harder to pick. I don't have one. I have like a bunch that are tied, but that is one of them. And boy, is it great. The show, again, it has some flaws. Ed can be annoying at times, although jamming with Ed, the episode where Ed is introduced, Ed is a bit too weird for the sake of it, and it gets grating at times. But I kind of like the episode anyway, and I really like the conceit of, the satellite that's just really bored and kind of lonely, so it recreates the old crop circles. I liked all that stuff, but yeah. But Ed barely annoyed me afterwards, except in Mushroom Samba, which I didn't really care for as an episode, other than Ein when Ein eats the mushroom and jumps off and makes that weird noise. That's great. Yeah. Fun fact about Ein, I don't know if you know this, but all of Ein's vocalizations were made by the producer's actual cardigan Welsh corgi pet called Jack.
Okay, that's fucking cool.
I know. And you wondered why they sounded so much more realistic than most cartoons where they have someone try to do those sounds. It is definitely my least favorite. I watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
They have a voice actress doing all of Iggy's grunts and barks, and it sounds like it.
I think the only thing I can think of where that worked was Beck Mongolian Chop Squad, and that's because the dog in that show is really weird.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that show? It's a very good show.
I saw like the first episode. I don't know why I didn't finish it.
It's very slow. I have it right here. One of my favorites, actually. It's one of the few shows that actually might be the only show that kind of because it's about music. It's about rock music. It spends a lot of time in basement bars and concert places, and actually somehow captures the visceral energy of actually being at a rock concert fairly well.
Yeah, I think my buddy Nigel's a huge fan of that anime.
It is a great show. But yes, back to Bebop. Ed could be a little grating at times. I'm not a fan of Mushroom Samba. Some of the jokes work, but a lot fall flat and it feels a bit... Yeah. And Feng Shui Boogie Woogie really feels off.
Yeah, that one's not popular even amongst the most hardcore of Bebop fans.
No, I wouldn't go so far as to say either are terrible. They're just kind of mediocre.
That kind of but that kind of says just how high the quality is for regular Bebop for those to be considered the weak links.
Yeah. Because they'd be kind of a slightly below average episode for a decent TV show, whereas for Bebop they're massively below average. They're just like you're just like. Why? And in fact, I will definitely be rewatching Bebop at various points in the future, and I'm almost certainly going to skip those 2 episodes. Everything else, even jamming with Ed for how annoying Ed can be at times in that one, fine with it. No, great show, great show. Love a lot of what it did. I have to say, my favorite anime soundtrack is still Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still's soundtrack. But Goodnight Julia is probably now my favorite piece of music from an anime. That's fucking beautiful.
Would it be fair to say that the soundtrack as a whole is at least a close second?
It's well up there. I can't necessarily say because there are other things like the Rurouni Kenshin, the Trust and Betrayal OAV, where the soundtrack quality and how that is used is so incredible. And also, I saw that show at a formative age. So there are various shows where the soundtracks are like, I can't tell if they're comparable. Well, they are comparable to a degree, but because I saw certain things at formative age, Dot Hack Sign would be another case. Yuki Kaijura's best soundtrack by far, although Fate Zero is pretty close. It's way up there, and it's brilliant in how it's used, and it's used in a way that very few things are.
Well, that's because Kano's a genius.
Yeah, which again, by the way, isn't to say that the way the more conventional ways soundtracks are used is a bad thing. It's just it's a stylistic choice. Yeah, it's more like
more like Bebop would not be Bebop without that specific kind of soundtrack that's all blues, jazz, and folk.
I was gonna say that the way it's used is more like Tarantino, but than conventional. But actually, it's more like Scorsese.
Yeah.
If you think of something like Goodfellas.
Yeah, I know.
How Scorsese,
like how it's always like how it uses like "Sunshine of Your Love," "Give Me Shelter," and all those other famous.
It's
songs.
Such a big part, and it's such and the way it's used, it informs the scene so well. Like the scenes are built around it, and the "Sunshine of Your Love" one in particular. If you mute that scene and just have subtitles, well, actually, there's no speech during it, but you know what I mean. If you mute that scene, the pacing feels off because it's paced to the music. But yeah. So what was interesting was I read some behind the scenes stuff, and Shinichiro Watanabe, initially he got handed a bunch of music by Yoko Kanno, the early stuff she'd worked on. And he got inspired by that to write certain scenes. And then she looked at the scripts. So she was writing the music for it from the scripts, not from the animated stuff. So that's quite unusual in and of itself. And she was writing stuff inspired by these that then inspired Watanabe to do new scenes.
It's all kind of they were feeding into one another pretty much.
Yeah. Your show, fuck, it's good.
Also,
Spike,
just so I can make some weeaboos cry.
I just want to say, Spike, Faye, and Jet, great characters who are, how do I put it? I'm trying to think of how to put this in a way that isn't going to sound like a bad thing, because I don't mean it as a bad thing. They're kind of ciphers in the good way. Because we don't know that much about them. Even when we get a lot revealed, like even at the end with Spike, where we know the most about him, we still don't have that much that we know. We know everything in terms of the gist of what we know about Spike. We know exactly what we know at the end, exactly what we knew about him in terms of the gist of it, as far back as Ballad of Fallen Angels. Because of that, they're ciphers, and that's not a bad thing. Cipher often these days is used to mean someone without an actual characterization or personality, but actually it's more an enigmatic kind of thing that you can read various interpretations into and project some stuff onto.
So in other words, they're not like ciphers usually get used, because a cipher is usually used for the audience to project themselves into, to live vicariously through.
They're the good way of using ciphers. I mean, ciphers are just a form of character shorthand, and character shorthand can be great, and Bebop uses a shorthand for character and plot very well because it's such a minimalist show, and it's clever.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, they might be ciphers, but we're not exactly meant to live vicariously through Spike, Faye, or Jet, because...
No, we're meant to relate to them. We're meant to see, and we're meant to, at the end, go see how not living in the past and not moving on to it can literally kill you. Like, like the show is very clear that living like they do is not a healthy thing.
Yeah, the thing is, like, they're drifters, basically. They're constantly just going from one job to the next. They're living from moment to moment. They don't have, none of them really have a plan. None of them really have a goal.
And the reason they're like that is they all live in the past. They're all obsessed with the past. They're not really paying attention to the future as much.
Yeah, I think that's actually very poignant. I forget which episode it was, but it was one of the last scenes, and Faye was talking with Spike and saying, "Well, you at least have a past," and Spike responded with, "At least you have a future."
Yeah, that was Yeah, that was great. I love the character work that the show does with Spike and Faye, and I mean, I love it with everyone, but the reason I'm talking about them specifically is the way it sets up the parallels between them. Because there's a lot of parallels between them. And it sets them up, and it does it very well. And then that all comes to a head, in the Real Folk Blues, the ending, that last scene that when Spike's leaving, that last scene with him and Faye really brings that into perspective. God, it's a good show. God, it's a good show. I think we'll have to. I think we might have to talk about Bebop more in depth sometime.
Yes, and I'm gonna have to bring in the other Sam because I do not know a bigger Bebop fan than him.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to bring in a guest or two to
bring in
the
other Sam, bring in Diente. Dude, there's just so much we could talk about.
Yeah, Diente would actually be interesting because he has quite an interesting perspective on the show. Because I was talking to him about it, and he had kind of the perspective that not speak like a child. The first episode with Faye's backstory.
I think that is it. Speak like a child.
No. The one where she tells Spike about.
Oh, My Funny Valentine. That was it.
Yes, My Funny Valentine. And Diante had an interesting perspective on that, where he felt that kind of set up for more to happen than actually did with her backstory, and he felt that was kind of a missed opportunity. I don't agree, but it would be quite interesting to get that perspective in there.
Yeah, that would be. It would, because I really got to hear this. We gotta make a date for this later down the line.
And something I said to Diante earlier is that Cowboy Bebop is a weird show because it could have easily been half as many episodes, or it could have been twice as many episodes, because of the way it's told and the way it's structured. So much of it is episodic, and I think they got the sort of length about right in terms of how much time to spend with these people. Because if it had been longer, yes, the amount of time you spend with them would have, say it had been Fullmetal Alchemist, the original one length, 50 episodes. Mm-hmm. You would have spent all this time with these people, and you would have had all this connection, although you have it anyway. But you would have had more. But you would have also lost all the stuff with Spike and Vicious would have been spread out so much farther, and it would have been spread out too far. And that would have meant that would have lost some of the impact that has, I think.
Yeah, it would have.
I haven't watched the movie yet. I got to watch it. I will. I'm not in a hurry to necessarily, but I will be watching it sometime soonish.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting where the film fits within the timeline.
That fits in just before Hard Luck Woman, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, like, it's...
I've always heard that it fits in between Brain Scratch and Hard Luck Woman.
Yeah, well, Shinichiro Watanabe is kind of ambiguous on that.
Right. But by the way, Brain Scratch, totally my favorite standalone episode that doesn't deal with a character's past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, while we're at it, I'll just say the ones that I like the most, that like most stood out to me, like the top 5. Counting two-parters here. So, I mean, everyone knows what 3 of them are going to be. Yeah. Because Ballad of Fallen Angels, Jupiter Jazz Parts 1 and 2, The Real Folk Blues Parts 1 and 2, and then I'd go Ganymede Allergy, and then I would go Brain Scratch. With a close almost Rand's would be probably Speak Like a Child, just because of that ending scene. That ending scene is like really poignant, and loved it. And
Toys in the Attic.
Yeah, I think probably Toys in the Attic.
Yeah. Also,
fuck, Toys in the Attic is great.
For Toys in the Attic, there's a theory floating around the internet that due to one scene from Space Dandy, because both are made by Shinichiro Watanabe.
Yeah. I need to see Space Dandy sometime.
Yeah, there's a theory.
I need to see more of his stuff.
There's kind of a theory that Space Dandy and Bebop may or may not be in the same universe, because you remember the fridge that Spike jettisoned out of the Bebop? well, Dandy and his crew come across it on a planet.
Holy shit. By the way, you know why I laughed at that?
Yeah.
Because I find the idea of two shows with such wildly different aesthetics existing in the same universe funny. Because Dandy's all bright and shiny.
And just goofy.
But yeah, I'm not sure if... So here's the other thing with me. Why those first couple of episodes being a bit weak kind of made me more bored. I am a massive fan of Watanabe's short for Genius Party, which is called Baby Blue, and which is incredible and which is fucking amazing. I'm not actually sure, but I think I might like Baby Blue actually slightly more than I even like Bebop. I know someone's going to kill me for saying I like a 15-minute fucking animation by the same director more than the entire series. Let me just be fair. Let me just be fair. I don't know. I'm saying I think I might. And that's partly because I've seen Baby Blue like 10 or 11 times in like 5 years. I've only seen Bebop once. There's a lot in Bebop to see over and over and to find again. So I don't know. But yeah.
As far as the rest of Watanabe goes, have you seen either Samurai Champloo or Macross Plus?
No, but I have intended to see Macross Plus forever. I have this thing with Macross where I know I should watch more Macross, but at the same time I don't want to. And this is going to sound really weird, but do you know why this is?
Why?
I have two anime that are my favorite anime ever. When Marnie Was There, which if I were forced to choose would be my number 2, but otherwise it's a tie, and the Super Dimensional Fortress Macross Do You Remember Love? And I have this feeling that every other Macross thing is going to be this huge step down from Do You Remember Love, at least in terms of how much I love it.
In other words, you have set your standards too high.
In other words, Do You Remember Love means so much to me at this point that any other Macross is going to be a step down. I'm sure of it.
You are just so hard to please.
Well, it's... I don't know. I get this kind of thing sometimes where there's one thing by someone that I love so much, and I kind of... Or that's in a franchise. And I kind of get this thing where I'm like, I don't know that I want to see the rest. Because I feel like or check out the rest. Because I feel like I'm not going to be fair to the other things. Because I love this thing too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I know what you're talking about.
I had something else I was going to... Right. It's one of those shows I saw in high school when I was just getting into 80s anime. One of those movies, sorry. Megazone 2-3 Part 1 was the first thing I saw from that era, and then it was this, and I'm gonna get... Have you ever seen Do You Remember Love?
No, in fact, I don't... The most I ever saw of any Macross anime was, and you are gonna hate me for
Voltron.
this, but I want to make one thing clear. This was my uncle's fault. He showed it to me and my brother when we were kids.
Voltron.
Nope.
No, not Voltron. No, I know. Robotech. How the fuck? I was thinking of Robotech and I kept... Fuck, all my nerd cred is gone. I referred to Robotech as Voltron 3 times. No, 2 times, I think. Right, so Do You Remember Love it's like a... It's a slightly alternate retelling and compression of the first story arc of the original TV show that in universe is a movie. It's a movie in the universe of Macross.
So wait, all the characters are watching a movie of the events.
Yes, they're watching a movie about themselves. And it is stunning looking. It's gorgeous. It has incredible music. It's melodramatic. It's very wears its heart on its sleeve. but it is incredible and it is gorgeous and it makes me feel a lot and I adore it. And it's one of those shows that in the West, particularly in America, made a huge impact on that early generation of anime fans who were primarily sci-fi fans, right?
Yeah, well, the thing was, we did not get Macross at that time.
No.
We got
and this is what I'm getting to. Dude. No, do you remember Love made a huge impression on them via fan subs? It has never officially been released in English other than, do you remember, Just for Kids?
Oh, boy.
The old, Clash of the Bionoids was what this was released as. Both in an edited and unedited version, dubbed terribly back in the day, and that's the only release. And of course, because it's Macross, Harmony Gold have the rights to Macross, and the rights are so convoluted it will never be released outside of here. It's fairly easy to find a torrent of the Blu-ray rip and everything. And I am highly, highly recommending you watch it sometime, and I'm saying we absolutely should do an episode on it because it will be interesting.
Yes, we probably... Also that too, I'm gonna...
Dude, if you need any more reason to need to see this, do you know who directed it?
Who?
Shoji Kawamori and Nobuo Ishiguro.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, for all the people in the audience listening, who would they know their work from?
Yes, let's just... So, Ishiguro is the bigger name. Ishiguro Yamato, the original Macross, Superdimensional Megazone 2-3, the original. Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Yeah. And many, many more. But he directed all of them. And Kawamori, Macross, bunch of Macross things. And you know what else he did? Escaflowne, which I need to see. But yes, Vision of Escaflowne. No, it is quite the boy, oh boy, man, it is. I'm trying to remember his name. Fuck, come on, let me look it up. Because the other thing, okay, so Kawamori, Kazutaka Miyatake, and Haruhiko Mikimoto did the mecha and character designs for it. Haruhiko Mikimoto did the character designs. Now, these are all legends. Miyakase, he did like Gundam Seed, Destiny mech designs later on. He did mech designs on Yamato. He did he worked on the Daikon 3 and 4 opening animations, which if anyone here has never seen them, they were animations done for sci-fi cons by the people who would later go on to form Gainax.
Aha.
And they were so impressive. Have you ever seen The Wings of Oni Armies?
I know of it. I've wanted to see it for a while.
You need to. It's incredible. So Oni Armies was the first Gainax movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what this thing's budget was?
What?
So this was an 87, and it had... Let's just do the conversion, shall we? To yen to American.
Yeah,
we'll go USD.
Are we gonna have to adjust for inflation on this?
We're not adjusting for inflation. This is we're not adjusting for. I'm not adjusting for inflation here. I'm just going. This is what it got back in '87 money. 705,600. No, fuck. $7,056,232.
Okay, for '87, that's a lot of money.
That, by the way, I think Ghost in the Shell was the first anime movie to get 10 million as a budget, or it was something around then, or it might have been Mononoke. But
honestly, if you want to, no anime movie has gotten a higher budget since Akira. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, but this was a massive amount of money in '87 to give to people. Here's how this worked. they gave this to these guys, and they formed the studio to create Oni-Amis, and they gave this money to these guys and went, make whatever the fuck movie you want on the basis of these 2 short con opening animations they did. That are the coolest things. And Oni-Amis is incredible, and yeah. So, oh yeah, and Haruhiko Mikimoto, for those who don't know the name, because I'm sure some of these people won't. Let's go through some of the stuff he did design for, shall we? Gunbuster, Macross 7, Megazone 2-3. He did the guest character design for Eve. Mobile Suit Gundam 0080, War in the Pocket. Macross, do you remember Love? Macross 2, August. You get the idea.
Yeah, this guy's got a long career with mecha anime.
He's basically, in my opinion, like the greatest anime character designer ever. But yes, you need to see Do You Remember Love at some point, and we need to talk about it. But oh man. Boy, we got off topic.
Yeah, but well, bringing it back to Cowboy Bebop, I want to say this just so I can make the weebs in
this episode is on anime, but you were saying,
yeah, bringing it back to Cowboy Bebop, I have something I want to say so I can make any weebs that are potentially listening, I want to make them cry. When asked about the voice for Spike Spiegel, Shinichiro Watanabe has been quoted saying that he prefers Steve Bloom's performance, and Yoko Kanno has actually been quoted saying, "Our Spike is cool. American Spike is sexy."
So there are still some subs only for life faggots who don't like Bebop's dub.
Even though Bebop is the one anime that even dub haters will concede is good.
Dude, you're gonna get a laugh at why. I saw someone complain that they westernized the character motivations too much in the dub.
Hello! Are you paying attention?
Excuse me, all of the main characters are European of descent. Excuse me, this borrows mostly... No, the show borrows pretty much exclusively from American and European media and tropes, most notably Western, sci-fi, noir, neo-noir. And also, yeah, what I will give them is this, it's all kind of channeled through an Eastern lens. So there is a bit of an Eastern worldview to it, but it's very Western in the way it's done. It's very Western, the characterization.
Yeah, also
even more so than most anime.
Also with a name like Spiegel, it's been speculated that Spike also might be Jewish.
Could well be. Or could just be of German descent. Like, that's one of those names you can never be sure.
Although I think Faye might have some Asian in her. She's supposed to be from Singapore originally, I think.
Probably, given the time it was written, and given her design, because all the Asian characters in it look quite Asian, I'd expect her to be of like mixed British and Singaporean descent.
I think you mean Malaysian. Singapore's in Malaysia.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yep.
Yes. Mixed British and Malaysian, yes. You know what I mean? They were called Singaporean back in the day.
They were?
I think so, because it was Singapore. I want to say that. I don't know. That's what the Brits called them, I'm sure. But yeah, it's a very Western show in the way it's done. And that's the other thing is, even for anime, it's westernized. And here's the thing. This is going to make weebs cry even more. Most anime is actually very westernized in its storytelling. Like, all these people go, Japanese storytelling is so much better, and Japanese tropes. Okay, if you're talking about anime, unless you're talking about like mushishi, or that kind of thing, chances are they're just
even
Asian
the ones
takes
that are set
on...
in Japan that have strictly Japanese characters that are about Japanese as you can get.
Generally, those tropes that these people love are Asian takes on Western storytelling tropes. Also, anime only exists because. Oh no! Kill me! Kill me! Kill me! Kill me! Kill me!
The guy
I'm having the
Astro
ultimate.
Boy, what was his
I'm
name?
having the ultimate. Oh my god, Tezuka!
Osamu
Yes,
Tezuka,
fuck, I
yes.
forgot his name because we both forgot. Holy shit, they're gonna kill us! All the anime fanboys are gonna kill us.
I could try. I could take
anime only exists.
I could take 10 of them in a fight.
Dude, they're all Haikikomori. They won't even. They're all neats. They won't even leave the house.
Yeah.
Anime only exists because Tezuka wanted to be Japanese Walt Disney.
Which he kind of is.
No, he was absolutely. But by the way, have you ever read some of his less famous manga?
No, in fact,
Like
I've never
more
read any of his
adult
manga.
manga?
I've not even seen any of his anime. Although I've heard great things of. Look, I can't really say I got any interest in watching Astro Boy, but I have heard interesting things about. What was it called? Phoenix, I think.
Phoenix, yeah. Okay, we'll get to Astro Boy because the topic of today, Astro Boy is going to play into. But here's some manga well worth reading from him. Buddha, which is his version of the Buddha's life, which is a great manga.
Cool.
It's like 8 volumes and they're like that fucking thick.
Yeah. Katsuhiro Otomo, eat your heart out. You thought you made a thick work with Akira? Yeah, you did not, man.
Yeah, there's also Moo.
Although to be fair, it's arguable that Akira looks better than Buddha, probably. Although they're different styles. They're different styles and sensibilities, so it's a total apples to oranges thing.
Depends on which style you like. There's Moo, pronounced MW, which is Tezuka going very dark. There's Phoenix. Again, the manga for Phoenix is very good. There's been some great anime versions. Blackjack. You got to watch 90s Blackjack OAV at some point because
I think I know
that's Osamu Dezaki.
I think
Osamu Dezaki, my favorite director.
It's a guy who's a surgeon and he's a surgeon. He'll do
it's pretty awesome.
Let me put it this way: it sounds like his house, but better.
Yeah, my only experience with Blackjack is the Osamu Dezaki OAV from the 90s, which is like awesomely melodramatic. I'm trying to remember the name of one of the other really great more adult works that Tezuka did that's well worth reading, because suggesting Buddha isn't enough because that's not big enough. That is so big. Come on, what's its name? Fuck, man. I'm scrolling through the list of Osamu Tezuka
manga. That's gonna be a long fucking list.
It's long, dude.
I don't think anyone has made more manga than he did.
Did you ever see the movie version of Metropolis? That was Rintaro thing, late 90s.
No, I did not.
It's so good. It's so good. It has great dub as well. It's just so good. The funny thing about this, I think it was 99, 2000 it was made.
I know Katsuhiro Otomo worked on it.
Yes. Its premiere in America was in New York. Ooh. Shortly after, like early 2002. 9/11. The climax of that movie has a giant fucking spiral tower building being detonated. And
you show it right after 9/11, of course.
No, and wait for it. It's actually one of the greatest scenes. Ode to Kirihito, by the way, is the manga I'm thinking of. But this ending is actually one of my favorite sequences, the ending to Metropolis. It's from 2001, okay? One of my favorite sequences. And Rintaro directed it. Katsuhiro Otomo did the screenplay.
So
Madhouse 2001 Madhouse, written by Otomo and directed by Rintaro. Now, Rintaro is very hit or miss with people, and no one can agree on what's a hit and what's a miss. But at the least, you're getting something gorgeous.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. While we're talking about shit that uses music brilliantly, This show. So when the ziggurat gets destroyed in the ending of Metropolis, there's a great case of dissonance in the use of music because the song that plays is Ray Charles's "I Can't Stop Loving You." It's really awesome. But yes, actually, you know what? Today's episode, I'm not sure if we're quite onto the topic yet, but we're talking about formative anime experiences.
Yes, our early years.
Which will be now. I'm gonna say for that childhood to maybe from when you're a kid to maybe mid high school.
That sounds about right.
15,
like,
16.
I would say from early childhood to through high school.
Yeah. So oh shit! How long have we talked?
Let me pull up.
Because this could be a long one.
We've already talked for an hour.
Oh, dude, this is gonna be like 3 hours long. I'm not kidding. My anime history starts when I'm about 5. And I'm actively aware of what anime is and manga is, and I'm actively seeking it out from when I'm about 6. Yes, I'm about 5 or 6 at this point. When this stuff happens. 6, yeah, no, 5. No, 6, yeah, no, sorry, I would be 6. When it starts.
So, mine's probably going to be a bit more on the conventional side, because my early experiences with anime was when I was, I want to say when I was 2nd, 3rd grade, which means I would have been 8 or 9. And
Right.
Pokemon is everywhere.
I just so you know, I was already reading Digimon fanfiction by that point. That's how it, yeah.
The early years of the internet.
Well, I would have been older than you, but I mean, sorry, not the same year as you, but when I was 8 or 9.
Oh yeah. So yeah, okay. So I'm 8 or 9, and well, Pokemon is everywhere. Kids can't get enough of Pokemon. I have no idea it's from Japan at the time.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, well,
because my very earliest would have been Pokemon when I was quite young, which I didn't realize was Japanese until my uncle lent me his Game Boy, original Game Boy in Pokemon Blue, and I recognized the yen symbol. And I went, oh, this is from Japan.
Wow.
And then when I watched Digimon, I recognized all the Japanese production names and went, oh, this is from Japan.
Yeah, growing up,
I must have been a pretty perceptive kid.
yeah,
But you were saying,
growing up about my only, I didn't really get into Pokemon as a kid, but I was kind of exposed to, to Godzilla movies at that age. So
right, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
In fact, one of the first Godzilla movie I think we owned was one that ended up on Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was Godzilla versus Megalon.
Oh, I've heard of that. I have to be honest, the only Godzilla I've seen are the 2 American movies and the American cartoon.
Really? You've not seen any of the Japanese ones?
Dude, I've meant to watch at least the original for like 3 or 4 years, and now I need to watch that, and I need to watch the Shin Godzilla because Hideaki Anno co-directing Godzilla. This sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's very political. In fact, on A&N Cast, when they talked about this, Zach Birchie described it as being, and he said it was good, but you have to understand the basics of Japanese politics and how the political system is set up, because it is basically the film version of a politics think piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, my first.
But you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my first exposure.
I've dominated conversation enough.
Yes. My first exposure to anime is Pokemon. I don't really get into it. I grew up on Godzilla movies though, so I got some exposure to Japanese pop culture.
Yeah.
I want to say when I was around, I would have been 12 or 13.
Right.
At this point, and I was watching a Power Rangers show that was on at the time. I don't remember which one it was. There's so many, who can keep them straight in their head anyway.
Yeah.
I'm watching a lot of Saturday morning cartoon blocks at that time. And this is
Yes.
around when I get exposed to shows like Yu-Gi-Oh, which me and my brother
Right.
get heavily into for a while.
Me and my cousin got heavily into that show for a while as well.
You know, we weren't
My
just into
cousin
the
is a
show,
few
we were
years
also
younger
into
than
the
me.
card game. Like,
Oh, so were we, bro. So were we. We were a bit younger than you as well, so.
yeah. Although I'm gonna confess, as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I was pretty shitty, and that's not because I played badly. It's because I structured my decks badly. I always structured my decks around a theme, so they were easy to beat.
Right. I was not great at the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Let me tell you this. As far as those games go, the Yu-Gi-Oh game was not bad.
It's not hard to learn.
And it was fun. I was, however, much better at the Pokemon trading card game, which was a lot cooler. And still is really cool, actually, in fact. I still have cards.
Alright, so yeah, I would say Yu-Gi-Oh was probably my gateway anime. Because
Right.
after that, I remember also... No,
So
actually...
did Digimon?
No.
Digimon,
Actually, I take it back. Yu-Gi-Oh was not my gateway anime, because when I was 10, that's when I got exposed to Toonami, and I watched Dragon Ball Z. That was
right, yeah.
Yeah, but I was watching...
Was Digimon a thing for you when you were young? Was that a factor at all? Something you were a fan of?
No, it was not. I did not see... I still have yet to see Digimon in its entirety. I did not grow up with Digimon. My gateway anime were Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh, because I think those were the
I have to say, Digimon Adventure, Digimon 02. 02's more flawed, but it follows on from Adventure, and Tamers, and Digimon Tri, which is a sequel set later on to Adventure, are all well worth watching. The Tri movies have been great so far. Tamers you need to see, because you know who directed Tamers.
Who?
Fucking Chiaki J. Kanaka, who directed Lane.
Holy shit, now I did. Yeah, I'm sold on
And
that.
Serial Experiments Lane had come out previously. They gave this guy season director role. He was basically the showrunner for a season of Digimon. Tamers did traumatize some kids.
Yeah, I hear Tamers gets very dark.
Yes. Now, a tip for you. Tamers in particular is worth seeking out fan subs for. Because with the first three seasons, they ripped out the music and redubbed it with really... or for the first however many seasons, and redubbed it with really unsubtle music that kills the mood a lot, particularly in Tamers. Tamers, there's a few... Tamers, the script is generally very good. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn did the adaptive script and directed that.
Huh.
It's generally very good, but there's... the final scene, the way they translate one part, the way they did a line in the dub is quite different than how it was meant. The first two are full of cheesy fucking jokes that don't work. Tamers is better about that, but all three have a lot of, we're not going to have silence, we're going to add music and talking and stuff. So they're worth checking out that way. But there are only fan subs for, there is no official sub release.
Yeah, growing up, most of the anime I was watching was mainly Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh. When I was 15, this is where my anime love really kicked into high gear, because then I started watching Naruto, but
you were slow. Oh man, by 15 we'll get to me, but by 15 I had already seen shit like Serial Experiments Lane.
Yeah.
I think I saw Lane when I was like 13 or 14. I had seen shit like Elfen Lied.
God.
I had seen all of Rurouni Kenshin.
Now explains why you are so messed up.
No, what explains why I'm so messed up was watching Rurouni Kenshin Trust and Betrayal when I was like 12. Have you seen Trust and Betrayal?
No.
Have you seen any Kenshin?
I saw the original TV series part of it.
Trust and Betrayal is the flashback to when he was still an assassin.
Back when he was Batosai.
It's brutally violent and graphic. It's gorgeously animated. It has incredible music. It's actually it's not particularly fast. It ends up with him accidentally killing the woman he's in love with.
And you just spoiled it for me.
Oh fuck! Sorry, but no, seriously, it's my bad. But it is something that you can enjoy with being spoiled. But it is very dark and it's depressing and it's
really
great.
More depressing than Berserk.
It's bleaker and more melancholy in tone than Berserk. At least the first anime of Berserk, I would say.
That is saying something.
Wait, no, it's maybe not bleaker, but it's more tragic in tone.
Again, that's saying something.
So you know how I said Jinro is a straight up fucking tragedy?
Yeah.
And structure and everything. So is Trust and Betrayal. Trust and Betrayal is like a Shakespearean tragedy set in Meiji Japan.
Holy shit, but yeah.
And it's based on a very short flashback that takes up maybe a volume of the manga, and it's much better than it. But yeah.
So yeah, when I'm 15, my love for anime really kicks into high gear because I start watching Naruto. Eventually, I kind of get bored with Naruto and start looking to the stuff that's on Adult Swim, which not all of it's good, but some of it is. I get into stuff like Bleach. About the first two seasons, I will still contend are good.
I never saw any Bleach, but I've always kind of meant to watch those first two seasons, but then I go, I feel like maybe it's a bit late.
I'm not sure if you'd want to watch Bleach with the dub now because, oh my god, I mean, it has good actors in it. I mean, it's got Johnny Bosch, it's got Michelle Ruff.
Yeah,
they are tried, but some of the lines they are given,
dude,
like, it was amateur.
Dude,
it's amateur.
Dude, the same thing happened with the Naruto dub.
Yeah,
everyone in that is pretty much everyone in the Naruto dub. I've seen the first two story arcs of Naruto. I enjoyed the first story arc, and in the second story arc, when I realized the three characters I liked the least, no, they really are the characters. We're not gonna have a ton of focus on interesting side characters like you got in the first story arc. I went, I don't like these main characters. Fuck it, I'm out. But again, that dub, boy, the scripting for that dub is a feat as well.
Yes, it's just, but yeah, I get into stuff like Bleach. I also start watching Trigun. I watch Cowboy Bebop at this time. I'm watching Code Geass. I'm watching.
Right.
And when I'm finished with high school and I'm in my early 20s, I'm just absorbing so much. I'm watching stuff I didn't even watch when that was on Toonami when I was a kid. I'm watching Yu Yu Hakusho.
I still haven't seen that show.
I'm watching Outlaw Star. I'm watching Serial Experiments Lane. I'm watching Ava. I'm watching Wolf's Rain. In fact, a lot of what gave me so much anime to check out was this one book I found at my college library. I can't remember the name of it. But I remember it having Kusanagi on the cover.
Who wrote it? Do you know?
Name escapes me. I think it was a woman.
Was it Susan Napier?
Maybe. I don't remember.
Because she's written a lot of anime like books like that. Was it the Anime Encyclopedia? No, it wouldn't have been because
I don't remember.
That's co-written by Helen McCarthy, but also by a dude.
I'll do a Google search for that later and hand it off to you. But yeah, that book.
I'm just curious.
That book is how I discovered Serial Experiments Lane and Wolf's Rain as well. Although I do have one bit of contention with that book. It somehow tries to pass off hentai as artistic. Sorry. Porn is not artistic, never has been, never will be.
So here's the thing with hentai. Do not take this as me being like, hentai is awesome, guys. But there is actually quite a world of difference between hentai anime, which I agree almost never has anything of artistic merit to it, with the notable exception being Kite, which only had porn added in because of the director. That was the only way he could get that made. And the American release of that had all that shit edited out and is much better for it. There are actually, shockingly enough, hentai manga that actually have stories and characters and shit that are actually interesting. There is some artistic value to be had in some shit like that. And the reason is, let me just be clear with this. I am not talking about your average run-of-the-mill thing. I'm talking about stuff where it is hentai by virtue of it having explicit sex. Right, like it has sex in it that is explicit, but that is not the be-all and end-all, and it's just there because it's people have sex, and I'm writing for this audience.
It has context, at least.
Yeah, and so there is actually a hentai manga that has value as story and characters, and all this kind. It's kind of the same with anything really. They're. It's like books that have like explicit sex, but
like those
that's not the
romance
intention
novels.
of them. Yeah, I guess, except I'm not thinking of that kind of story, but yeah. I don't know. Again, they're rare, but they exist. Hentai anime, you're right. I mean, other than like the weird OAVs that you get every now and then, they're like weird horror things that also... There is a disturbing amount of crossover between horror and hentai in anime and manga.
Oh, wait. I think I know where you're going. You're going to say Wicked City, aren't you?
No, because Wicked City is awesomeness. And Wicked City isn't hentai. Although on an episode of Anime World Order, Daryl Surratt picked that as his thing to review on an episode they did for hentai, and he argued that he could do that because he was pretty sure it had more sex in than the hentai that his co-host picked.
Oh my god.
I love Wicked City. Wicked City is like pulpy. That's kind of how that works. It's pulpiness, right? Rather than pornographic. I love Wicked City, man. I unironically love Wicked City. I think Wicked City is awesome. It has a cool tone. It's just awesome. It's very well made.
Okay,
cool.
I'm gonna tell you this just to see how you react.
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane, the guy who made Spawn, was actually quoted as saying that Wicked City was his main inspiration for Spawn.
Oof. Boy, did he managed to not understand what made Wicked City good.
But Tom McFarlane's a good artist, not a good writer.
He's not. But again, Wicked City for what it is, pulpy, ridiculous, fun, is awesome. I love Wicked City. And you look like you are not a fan of Wicked City.
I have not seen Wicked City in its entirety, so I cannot comment on it one way or the other. It's just...
I watched it expecting ridiculous, over-the-top crap that I could enjoy unironically, but it's very cool. It's very stylish. It's actually quite well written. It's interesting. It's a real blast to watch, man.
It's just but it's just that that book I mentioned when it got to the
if you can get through the vagina dentata part.
Oh boy,
Spider-Woman.
Yeah. Now where I was going, that book I mentioned when it got to that whole section about how it tries to pass off hentai as artistic, it name dropped hentai like La Blue Girl and Legend of the Overfiend.
Well, he almost has a point with Overfiend where she almost had a point with Overfiend where Overfiend tried to tell this big epic story and have characters. It didn't do a good job with it though. It really botched that. Yeah. But again, I'm not trying to defend it as being good. I'm just saying you can actually make somewhat of an argument for that one particular example.
I do not think
and that again,
you could not do that with La Blue Girl, I'm betting.
No, I don't believe so. La Blue Girl, by the way, I'm skipping ahead a bit in my story, but by the time I was in intermediate school, now intermediate school is in between primary school and high school here, so you go 10 and 11.
It's middle school.
No, it's not as long. It's only 2 years, but 10 and 11. My first year there, we were in the classroom. It was just the kids during a break. Someone was at a class computer. I joked that they should look up Love Blue Girl.
Oh, you.
No. This is where it gets truly fucked up. So it was just a bunch of people hanging out. One of their friends went, don't. One of their friends went, don't, that's fucking tentacle porn. One of their friends, a fellow 10, 11, 12 at this age, and a fellow knew what fucking, another kid knew what Love Blue Girl was.
Oh my god.
Not even kidding. That does go to show. I mean, like I said, I think I watched Lane when I was in fucking intermediate school or my first year of high school. So I was 12 or 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. Yeah. No, 11 and 12 is intermediate school. Sorry. So yeah, I would have been 12, 13 when I saw Lane, and I would have been 11 when I made the La Blue Girl joke.
So yeah, as for the rest of my story, I kind of dropped off of anime around, I want to say, 2013.
Right. Now, just for context, you're 26.
Did
you say? Are you? So you're 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, I dropped off watching, consuming anime left and right around when it was around 2013.
Right.
I think part of it might have been burnout, and I just wanted to find something else to.
Yeah.
Just wanted to find something new.
Burnout is going to be a recurring thing in mine.
Yeah.
Once I hit my teens, I burn out easily, and I struggle with motivation, even when not burnt out. But yeah, is this my turn?
Yeah.
With my
otherwise, I'm
long
just going to
in-depth
talk
story.
about recent anime I watched, which I've already got reviews up of.
Right. So mine starts. I'm about. Okay, so other than Pokemon, which I watched and all that, mine really starts when I'm about 6 and Digimon. One of my most... Now, we did not have Sky, which was like cable, so we did not have Cartoon Network. I never had Cartoon Network as a child. I had to find this stuff mostly on my own, other than the stuff...
Wait a minute, Digimon was on
ran
Fox
as like
Kids,
Saturday
not
morning
Cartoon
cartoons.
Network.
No, dude, let me finish. I had to find what was shown as Saturday morning cartoons and otherwise find stuff on my own. I couldn't happen upon it like you.
Mm-hmm.
As much. One of my most distinct memories is as a child, my uncle comes over to stay at our place, crashes. Next morning we're eating cereal. We've got one of the shows on. So kids TV in New Zealand often had shows where they have presenters and they do wacky things, and then they have cartoons, and right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, we've got this new thing for you. And it was the first episode of Digimon. Boom. Blew me the fuck away. At some point I realized it was Japanese. Again, I think I recognized Japanese names and production credits at some point. Oddly enough, there is an actual phenomena where sometimes memories are in black and white or grayscale rather than color for you.
Really? Huh.
This is the thing, my psychologist has talked about it. And what's interesting is this memory is like that for me, but the only thing that's black and white in it is the TV, the Digimon on the TV. And I can't remember it in color. I can try, but I can't, even though I've seen that episode in color.
Huh.
And I mean, I've seen it since, and it was in color then. So it's this weird memory thing for me. So I get into it there. Other shows that were airing at the time were the 2000s Astro Boy, which was hacked up. But I recognized there was something good in there. Dragon Ball Z.
Of course.
Your ass 5, 6, 7-year-old would love Dragon Ball Z, eh? Go to the public library one day. Looking through comic books, graphic novels. See? Ooh! Astro Boy volumes. I read Astro Boy, the comic, the manga, the old original manga.
Yeah.
When I was I read much of it when I was about 6, 7, maybe 8. I really got into this stuff quite young. They had some Ranma 1/2. They had some Inuyasha. They only had the volume. They only had the early volumes, so they had. So, basically, before they ran out of steam and got too repetitive and shitty.
One sec. I did not watch Digimon, but when I was a kid, there were times my parents would drop me and my brother off at our grandma's for a weekend.
Right.
And we would watch movies and eat pizza at her place. And one movie we picked up back when Blockbuster was still around was This Is Gonna Make Sam Cry.
It wasn't Grave of the Fireflies, was it?
No. This will still make you cry, though. We picked up the Digimon movie.
Oh no.
Yes.
I'm not okay.
On the off chance nobody knows, on the off chance you're one of the few people who doesn't know.
The American version, the American Digimon movie was a hack job edit of 3 different Digimon movies with shitty pop punk music added in and shit like that.
Yep.
Even as a child, I didn't like it. And child me had some questionable taste. So that's kind of me at a young age. I'm watching Digimon, I'm watching Pokemon for a while. I'm reading Astro Boy, I'm reading Inuyasha, I'm reading Ranma 1/2. I start reading Digimon fanfiction. Back in the days when fanfiction.org was your only option.
Oh boy.
That is a terrible website for finding stuff that doesn't suck on.
Yeah, I don't think fanfiction.net is much better off.
Oh no, that's what I meant. .net, yeah, fanfiction.net. Nowadays we have archive of our own, which is much better and is much better with curation, and people don't just leave reviews saying everything is awesome.
Yeah, they don't spare the fifis.
At this point, I accidentally discovered that so there's 2 characters in Digimon Frontier, the 4th season, who are revealed to be twin brothers later on. Mm-hmm. At this point, I just accidentally discover gay shipping.
Oh my god.
With them being shipped in a fic.
How old are they in the show?
Like 13, 14?
This is all kinds of fucked up.
It was probably written by a 16-year-old girl. Let's just be fair.
Probably.
I hope it wasn't an adult fucking person.
Oh boy.
It was either a 16-year-old girl or a 50-year-old man.
Neither of which come out looking good.
No. But a 16-year-old girl at least has, I was a teen and hormones and stupid.
An excuse.
Yeah. Not a defense, but an excuse. So I'm reading all this stuff. I'm reading the Pokemon manga scams online. By the time I'm 9 or 10, I used to watch Card Captors, which was the shitty dubbed version, Card Captor Sakura. Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff like that. By the time I'm 9 or 10, I'm reading like X 1999 online. To be clear, that manga can be quite violent. And I wouldn't say gory, but like one of the characters kills people by literally like doing that through their chest. Like thrusting his arms through their chest.
Like how Dio killed Kakyoin in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by having the world just shove him through its fist through its chest.
I haven't seen JoJo's. I need to.
Yeah.
But shoves his arm through. Blood goes everywhere. I'm reading stuff like this.
That has
not
I wouldn't be surprised if that's supposed to be a reference to JoJo, because that JoJo gets referenced where it's like
probably
is, pop culture.
It wouldn't surprise me. X is a very good manga, by the way. I move towns for intermediate school. The local library there has some volumes of Rurouni Kenshin. I read them. Some volumes of Holic and Sparsa Reservoir Chronicles. I read them. I give the anime of Holic and Sparsa a try. Both are terrible, so I stick to the mangas. I watch Rurouni Kenshin. Back in the days when you could watch this stuff on YouTube.
Oh yes, those days.
Then I watched Trust and Betrayal.
Back when upload limits were 10 minutes and we had to watch anime episodes in 3 parts.
Yeah. Man, those were the days.
They were.
I watch all of Kenshin. I watch both IVs, Trust and Betrayal, which is the masterpiece, and the other one that shall not be spoken of, that does not exist because it's terrible. It literally So the manga ends with the last story arc of the manga never got adapted except until the live action movies, which I've not seen. The first 2 story arcs of Kenshin, the show, are quite good. Then it goes into terrible filler. Although there's one arc in the filler that's quite good, but it's anime only arc. At the end of the manga, Kenshin and Kaoru, the main female, they end up together and they're happy, and it's an earn your happy ending kind of thing. In this OAV, yeah, they get together, but then Kenshin's always off, going places, trying to help people, and then literally they both die at the end from some weird disease that it's like implied as sexually transmitted degenerative disease.
Now, who was carrying it and who was the one that received it?
Kenshin, because he's sick already. And then there's a sex scene, and then Kaoru starts coughing up blood later as well, which is what he was having, which I don't think any STD makes you cough up blood. Yeah, any STD that existed in Meiji era Japan. So it makes no sense, and it's terrible. And so here's the thing. I say the Jinshu arc, the 3rd story arc of Kenshin, wasn't adapted. They half-assedly adapted parts of it for this OAV, and it's terrible. But it had great music and was gorgeously animated. So I watch all this shit. At this point, I am an internet user. I am looking up shows to watch. I somehow discover Lane. I watch Lane when I'm about 12 or 13 in one day. And I actually more or less managed to make a coherent reading out of the events and everything.
Holy shit.
I was a bright kid. I'm not sure if I would agree with that interpretation. I've watched it a few times since, and each time I come out of it with a slightly different interpretation. But that's the point of it. Kanaka does have his own interpretation, but he says they're all valid. I start watching, what else? I watch Elfen Lied. I like Elfen Lied at that age because it's the kind of thing that at that age you think you're watching something more mature than you are. The pretensions of it fool you at that age.
Yeah, but then you actually get older and wiser, and you go back and you realize, yeah, it's not smart.
I still find Elfen Lied enjoyable in a semi-ironic way. It's not good, but it's entertaining. The manga's better, but it's still not great. It's fine. I watched Dot Hack Sign, which I will to this day defend. That is a very smart show. I watched Dot Hack Sign before Lane, actually. I'm trying to think what some of the other things I watched are. I probably skip a few years forward, and I'm watching stuff like Fullmetal Alchemist 03, which I adore. I'm watching stuff like Code Geass, which I liked a lot because it was batshit insane. I still enjoy that show because of that, but there are better batshit insane things. I'm watching... Man, I watched so much over that time period that it's hard to know what I'm watching, so 14, 15. 13, 14, 15, let's say, actually, it would have been. I watched both seasons of Code Geass within a week during end-of-year exams.
I gotta wonder how your scores turned out because of that.
I was a depressed, anxious, angry, bitter kid who genuinely, my second year at high school, I did by correspondence because I was too anxious to go to school. I did not give a fuck. I did not try. The only subject I cared enough to try it was history.
So you flunked out of most of them anyway.
Indian, I somehow still managed to graduate high school.
Huh. You're probably like me. You probably got like passing grades, not good grades.
Most of the time I failed at grade. Most of the time I failed things. I think.
I at least tried enough I tried enough that I at least got passing grades.
I'd watched Death Note before Code Geass. I liked Code Geass more because it was a bit nuttier and it had more going on. I was reading manga at this point too. I'm trying to think what some of the manga I read were. But I was watching probably more anime. Again, I power through quite a bit of stuff. At this point, I'm hanging out a lot on a... Do you remember BBSs? No, IRCs, sorry. Do you remember IRC channels when they were a thing?
IRC channels. I feel like I should. I do not.
Internet Relay Chat. It was a chat thing. And it was for anime fans. And a lot of people used to stream anime and we'd watch. And so I saw a lot of stuff like that at that sort of age. I saw Bastard. I saw Phoenix. Both in one night. All of Bastard, all of the Phoenix, the 2000s Phoenix show, both of which are awesome. Haruhi. Of course, I watched Haruhi. I will still defend season 1 of Haruhi, and I love the movie, but Endless 8, boy. Bokurano. I saw Bokurano at about 15 or so. Do you know what Bokurano is?
Blanking on that completely.
It's the subversion of the mecha genre that makes Ava seem nice.
Really?
I'd seen Ava at this point. I also saw Beck, which I adored. I saw Razafon, which I adored. I saw Mushishi. I saw all these things. But Bokurano. Now, I'm more of a fan of the manga, but they're both very good. Bokurano is a bunch of 13, 14-year-olds and a 12-year-old. They're on a school trip by a beach. They go into a cove. There's a weird guy there. Asks them if they want to play a game. They say yes. He goes, okay, cool. You guys get to pilot a giant mecha and fight off other giant mechas. If you lose, it's the end of the world. They go, sweet. Join up. Cut to this guy, fights off a giant mecha, gets out, dies. Yeah, it turns out the giant robot mecha runs on the life force of the pilots, and all these people are gonna die. And actually, the reason it works is because the show and the manga, particularly the manga, really becomes about how people, particularly young people, disparate characters who are all very well characterized, how they respond to the knowledge that they're going to die, right? And, you know, the responsibility they have to either fight and die or the world ends, rather than being, we're just going to kill these people in this parade of sadness. It's sad, but it actually gives it meaning, right? By analyzing what it means to these characters. Okay, so it's not just...
So like, Bokuran deal is about like how people deal with death, whereas Ava is about how people deal with trauma.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty of trauma in Bokurano.
Yeah, but it seems more like plenty of it. But it seems more concerned with how people deal with death.
Yeah, and the characters who are very traumatized by terrible shit that's happened to them before, like that's that's a characterization thing rather than being Ava almost fetishizes trauma at parts, I find.
Yeah, like it's...
But the other...
a lot of that had to do with the fact that Anna was super fucking depressed at that point, and he was just so locked in his own head.
Yes. Well, Ava, I mean, Bokurano, like, has... And this is even more so in the manga, where, again, it's worse, but one of the pilots, this girl, and she's being raped by her teacher. And so she goes, I've got this giant robot. I'm going to kill him. And goes on a killing spree before fighting off the mecha. And the show and the manga in particular goes, and in fact, there's a part in the manga where like her parents actually go, we didn't know this. This was terrible, but what she did was terrible too. right? And so it's like it doesn't give easy answers with anything in the show, but particularly manga. And the other thing is because it actually gives meaning to this stuff. The fact that they're going to die actually has some meaning, and it analyzes what it means to them. It doesn't become tragedy porn that ends up not meaning anything by the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
The manga's particularly good, but yeah. So I see stuff like this. I see, man, so much. I'm trying to think. Then I discover, then 2012. No, it would have been 2012. A&M cast do best of the 80s, best of the 90s, best of the 2000s because it's the 50th anniversary of Astro Boy. And they have on guests. And I hear about all these shows that I'm like, oh my God, these sound awesome. Oniamis and Megazone 2-3. And well, Megazone 2-3 Part 1 actually I heard about because Daryl Surratt was on the 80s one, and then I went to the check out AWO. I hear about Macross Do You Remember Love? I hear about Madball 34, which Mike Toole put at number 10 on his list because it's not very good, but it's entertaining.
Yeah, that you can't take away from it.
You should have. Zach and fucking the reactions of everyone else was hilarious. He goes, it's not going to be on a lot of people's lists legitimately, but it's 100% entertaining. And once you see this, it's burnt into your head forever. It's Madball 34. And everyone's just like,
well, it's kind of hard to forget an anime where a guy ties grenades to his pubic hairs.
What's funny is in that same episode, Justin put the first part of Xeno of Genocyber on his top 10 list.
Oh my God.
I love Justin, but like, holy shit.
He'd be doing that to be funny.
No, he did it because he loves stuff that has children suffering. He just loves fiction that has people suffering, especially children. And the first part's really
I get the sense Justin does not like kids.
Have you ever listened to any of the old episodes of the A&N cast where Justin Sveikas was still a co-host?
No.
Long and short of it is, like me, he's a moody fuck with a dark sense of humor. There's an episode where they did at the end of the end of 2009 for their Christmas special. They did going back through the decade. I think it was in this one. And Justin talks about how a week after 9/11, he went to an open mic at a stand-up club living in New York and just told a bunch of 9/11 jokes.
Oh my God. I bet you he got booed out for that.
I imagine the only reason that he didn't get killed was because he's Asian. I think if he were white, he would have been killed.
He probably would have.
Anyways, so I hear about all these things and I check out AWI and I hear about all these other things. I go, oh my God, I got to check these out. I check out Megazone 2-3 Part 1. I'm like, oh my God, 80s stuff is awesome. I check out Macross Do You Remember Love? I'm like, ah. Now, something to remember. I'm talking about a lot of sci-fi, a lot of cool sci-fi that's kind of melodramatic and ridiculous from the 80s. And I'm watching this stuff at a point where I am probably at my lowest for depression and anxiety. This shit is a great escape.
I imagine it would be.
Not an unhealthy one necessarily, but it is a great one. I get into all this 80s stuff. I'm blanking on specific titles. I start reading, I go, man, I need craziness. I start reading fucking, oh my God, what is the dude's fucking name? I'm looking it up. I start reading this guy's manga, Kazuo Koike manga.
Oh, yep, the guy who made Crying Freeman.
Yeah, who's most famous, of course, for Lone Wolf and Cub, which is his most sane work.
Oh yeah.
You should read Offered one time. Offered is an awesomely insane manga that has Nazis hunting a Japanese athlete because it turns out that he's the direct descendant of Gilgamesh because Gilgamesh jacked off into a pot and preserved the semen in ice in a fucking iceberg. No, in a glacier, sorry. And then the semen was used to impregnate this guy's mother. And so this guy's the direct descendant of Gilgamesh. And there's literal Nazis after him because of this.
I almost feel like it would have made more sense for them to go after him for being the direct descendant of Adolf Hitler.
No, they go after him because there's like some prophecy that if he has a child, it'll be super powerful.
Holy fucking
all you need to know about Kazuo Koike is there's a manga of his Wounded Man. Let me find the quote.
Oh, I can't see. There's blood in my eyes. Piss on them to get the blood out.
Yep.
I remember this.
Which, by the way, anyone listening knows me and has my Facebook. Look at my favorite quotes. That is genuinely 100% no shit. I put that in my favorite quotes. On with, is it tax deductible to say that I just gave money to a guy who wiped shit off his ass with his own hand or something? No, fuck. Let me look it up. Jeffrey's quote from when he was on O&A one time. That is in there, and it's a crazy one. I have all these like deep quotes, or these quotes that kind of resonate with me on this level, and I have a handful that just make me laugh, and no one seems to have noticed them.
Yeah, actually,
I forget
also
what one.
Kazuko Koike also write this. Didn't he? This one. Well, I can't remember if it was Crying Freeman or another manga he made, but it had.
No, he didn't do Crying Freeman. I think Crying Freeman was someone else. No, Crying Freeman was him. I'm thinking of something else that was someone else. But yeah, what were you saying?
Was it okay? Well, I remember you and Diente. It was in a stream we did way back when it was something about main character runs into the Who.
Yes, we'll get to this. So, the Jim Jeffries quote is that tax deductible to say that I gave money to a guy who cleaned shit off his hand? And I have those there along with, like, quotes from fucking Tennyson and Wordsworth. And I have 2 quotes from Pat Labor, too. I have a quote from the Skycrawlers. Can you tell I love Oshi?
Oh, yeah.
I have a quote from the Amber Spyglass. I have a quote from Welcome to Night Vale, which actually, despite the fandom, is a very good series. Good audio series. But yeah, so that literally sits along with quotes like, tears, idle tears, I know not what they mean. Tears from the depth of some divine despair. Rise in the heart and gather to the eyes, and looking on the happy autumn fields and thinking of the days that are no more. Which that's from Tears, Idle Tears by Alfred Lloyd Tennyson. It's a poem. Anyways, you get it.
Yep.
I put them there for a laugh. But the actual quote is, I can't see, there is blood in my eyes, pee on my face to wash it out. But yes, so there is a Koike manga where the main character meets the Who. And Koike was interviewed about this. And they're like, why are the Who in there? Do you know them or something? No, sorry, they just go, why is the Who in there? And he just replies with, literally, the only thing he replies with is, I only write about people I know. And they go, so you know the Who? I only write about people I know.
Oh man, he's like, he's about as cryptic as Yoko Taro.
But no, you would dig some of Koike's stuff. Offered is hilarious. Offered, when I first read Offered, I have another friend who's also into like the crazy anime and manga thing, and I was reading it in scans because it's way out of print. Mm-hmm. And I would just print screen like every other page and go, holy shit, this is so hilariously insane.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of related to Koike, about Lone Wolf and Cub. There was actually an episode of Samurai Jack where it was flashback into back when he was a kid and he actually met Lone Wolf and Cub.
I was going to say this with Bebop. I was trying to decide what to watch next. I was thinking for cartoons and anime. I was thinking maybe Trigun. But you know what? I think I'll go from one moody minimalist show where every episode is almost a different genre to another and rewatch Samurai Jack and then watch the new one.
Yeah.
I think that's what. I'll do that, but I will also watch an anime and I'm thinking about Wolf's Rain.
Oh,
I've never seen
dude,
that
you are
one.
gonna
Meant
so
to for a
fucking
long
love it.
time.
I fucking love. I fucking adore Wolf's Rain. And I
Okay.
know I'm sounding like an effeminate gay man. I do not care right now.
But this is another one that Deante is a huge fan of.
Yes.
So yeah.
Deante fucking loves anything with wolves anyway.
Yes, he does. Not in a. We just made him sound like a one of those annoying people like
furry.
wolves are so awesome, but he's not. But yes. So at some point I discover Oshi via Pat Labor too, via the Pat Labor movies. I then Ghost in the Shell. I then check out a bunch of other Oshi stuff. I'm like, fuck yes, this is my jam. I apologize for using that phrase. That is a really annoying phrase. I watched some Ghibli films. I have to be honest, there's still a bunch I haven't seen. But Grave of the Fireflies I saw when I was like 14.
And I bet that.
And I watched it twice. I watched it twice within about a month. It does. That movie actually does make me cry. You've seen it, right?
Yeah, I have. All I can say is I didn't cry, but I felt emotionally drained after watching it. And I typed it on Facebook. I never want to see this movie again.
Whereas I've seen it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of it's odd. It's an odd thing to say about a movie. I mean, because Grave of the Fireflies, on a technical level, it is a good film, but it's kind of the greatest movie you never want to see again.
You have to be a miserable fuck who likes things that makes them feel miserable to want to watch it again. So you have to be like me. You know what scene in that gets me the most? For a lot of people, it's the scene where he's putting his sister in like the makeshift coffin and he's doing all that stuff.
I think it's
for me. It's the scene. Yeah, but the coffin for that, because it's kind of a coffin they bend him in. For me, it's the scene just before that, where the rich family who live in the house just across from where they were come home.
Yeah,
and everything's fine, and they put a record on, and it's Home Sweet Home. Mm-hmm. And then it slowly pans across. And it shows just the abandoned area where Setsuko and Sato were, and it just shows kind of echoes of Sato playing here and there. The juxtaposition of all that really gets me. And to this day, I can't. And I love Home Sweet Home, but to this day, I can't hear that song without getting a little choked up because of that. Because it's quite a sentimental song anyway, in a good way. But that sequence. Saw some other Ghibli ones. Whisper of the Heart, which for the longest time was my favorite Ghibli movie. Then I saw Only Yesterday, which became my favorite, which is now my second favorite. Then I saw When Marnie was there. But yeah,
Ghibli movies I've seen, I saw Secret World of Arrietty and
Arrietty is so good.
With my ex-girlfriend.
I have to be honest, I've still not seen Totoro.
Totoro's a good movie. It's very cute. It's also very uplifting and cheerful. Although even though it's got some sadness to it. I mean, it doesn't.
What I have seen of Miyazaki movies that he's directed now, those are Spirited Away, which is very meandery, doesn't have much internal logic for what happens. Howls, which is a total mess and terrible. Ponyo, which is even more so meandery, doesn't have much internal logic. And Kiki's, which I like, but is still a little meandery and not in the way I like. Yeah. So I feel like he's not as much my kind of director, but I'm going to check out the rest of his stuff.
Yeah, I think Kiki's I haven't seen. I do remember also seeing Castles in the Sky.
Beautiful. Laputa, Castle in the Sky. Yeah. Which they just call Castle in the Sky in Spanish-speaking countries.
Really?
La puta. Puta. Puta is whore or bitch.
Oh.
Even though it's one word in the Ghibli movie, that's still. But yeah, so that's fuck Ghibli. It's Ghibli, and it's Ghibli. I know this because they named it after the wind.
Let me think. I actually do kind of like Spirited Away, though. I have a different.
No, Spirited Away is a good movie, but it meanders a bit much for me, and it doesn't have that much internal logic to what's happening. It is things happening for the sake of them, and it relies on you caring more about whimsy and charm and all that than you do about the internal logic for what's happening, right?
Yeah, and I don't, but yeah.
Yeah,
the thing about Spirited Away that I kind of the thing that kind of made me really appreciate it was, okay, Sam, you know I'm kind of into White Wolf tabletop RPGs.
Yes.
Well, one of the
Oh
games
yes. Yeah, I know where you're going with this now.
one of the games they have that is probably very near and dear to my heart is Changeling the Lost.
Right.
And in that game, you play your character is a changeling, but what's different about this from like traditional folklore around changelings, like you know how the traditional folklore goes. It's a
child is abducted and replaced by like a fairy kind of thing.
In this one, you're a human that's been abducted by the Fae, and they leave a copy, a doppelganger in your place, and they take you to their realm, and it changes you. You're not human anymore. You're part Fae, and then you become a changeling. And there's just so much stuff in Spirited Away that just kind of jives with that same stuff that...
Have you ever heard the crazy theory about what Spirited Away is about? That
yes,
some weird
I do know about this.
Japanese director. There's some weird Japanese critic who goes, "This is a movie about child prostitution."
Yeah.
It has this weird list of reasons why, and it's kind of like if you watch a David Icke talk. You know it's nuts, but the way he argues it and the way he forms his narrative, you go, okay, I see the logic. He's wrong. He's wrong. He's nuts, but I see the logic.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting interpretation of Spirited Away.
Yeah, but so much of what goes on in Spirited Away, that's just stuff that just makes me think of Changeling the Lost, and that's stuff that gives me ideas for campaigns for it.
Oh man, there are. Dude, I'm thinking of anime I totally forgot about that made huge impressions on me. Early in high school, 2011, Wandering Sun. Fucking God, that show is incredible. It's incredible fucking, it's slice of life. It's awesome. It was a no time in a block show. So late night for adults, slice of life thing. About kids, but beautiful show, incredibly made, great show. It's well worth watching. There's so many shows. I'm just bad at remembering what I've seen and what made impressions on me sometimes. I remember one Maison Ikoku I watch in high school later on, and that is my Rumiko Takahashi thing. That show I adore. It's long, but again, it's well worth watching, and that could be that's well out of print. So, but not too hard to find ways to watch. It's expensive. It's like hundreds of dollars for the DVDs. So you know what I mean when I say ways to watch. But that's a show that could be interesting to talk about sometime. I watch Onisama A, which is or Brother Dear Brother or Dear Brother, and now you know why I don't use the English names because they both sound like hentai names. But it's 90s adaptation of a 70s shoujo manga by Ryoko Ikeda. That is the mangaka who wrote the manga for Rose of Versailles, done by Osamu Dezaki. This is basically a 70s shoujo show in terms of how it's everything. The art design, the music, everything, except with 90s production values. And I adore it. It's like 39 episodes long. It's so good. It's a masterpiece. I love it so much. I watch Aim for the Ace, which is another Dezaki thing, and it's shoujo, and it's early 70s, and it's a tennis show, and it's like crack.
Damn.
I'm trying to think of all these. Dude, I watched, so Aim for the Ace 2, the follow-up season still has not been fan subbed that I know of. I think Aim for the Ace has, let me see how many episodes it has, because I watched it in like well under a week. I think I watched it in like 2 or 3 days. 26 episodes, and I watched it in about 2 or 3 days. And like I started at a night, and then 5 episodes later, and I'm like, I need to sleep. And then the next day, it's like 10 episodes in a row. Like it probably was actually like 2 days and I was watching it like 10 episode chunks. There's other stuff like very late in high school, like Video Girl I, which is actually very good.
There's a couple other anime I can remember watching in my 20s that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
I remember watching. Oh My Goddess.
Right. I've actually heard that the original OAV of that is pretty good.
Yeah, I watched the first anime. It was like, it's so.
Is that like the OAV rather than
No,
the
I don't.
series?
No, I think it was a proper anime.
Okay, there's an earlier OAV. I think one of them's "Ah My Goddess" and one of them's "Oh My Goddess," and the one that's like a six-part OAV that came earlier is apparently quite good.
Yeah. I also remember watching Welcome to the NHK.
I still have not seen that, but I need to.
Yeah, welcome. Let's just say, welcome to the NHK. It is scary how close to home this one will hit you.
Okay, I have to say, some of the stuff I'm saying very late high school might have been shortly after, might have been because it's kind of hard for me to tell at this point. I mean, I'm young, but I don't want to get up to date. But you get the idea. My taste. You guys, I'm sure you guys get the idea. Like, I can't think of everything, and there's so much
It's
that I've seen.
impossible. I mean, like even I can't remember everything I watched, and I was consuming anime like a drug addict in my 20s.
The thing is, I burnt out. I've been out 3 or 4 times since I was 15 or 16. I've gone through periods where I've not really watched much, and then I've seen a few things, and I've gone, "Oh my god, these are awesome!" And then I've had trouble getting back in for long periods of time. But hey, that's how it is sometimes, and that's how it is even with watching TV for me sometimes, or watching movies for me sometimes, right?
Like, dude, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah. And there's so much I want to watch, but motivation, all that. But yeah, as I said, I watched Bebop, man. I loved it, and I'm gonna be watching more stuff. I'm gonna do. I mean, it's not anime, but Samurai Jack. But I'm also gonna Wolf's Rain or Trigun or something like that.
Well, I also remember watching Trigun in my early 20s and Black Lagoon.
I've still not seen Black Lagoon.
Yeah, Black Lagoon.
Oh, Baccano. Have you seen Baccano?
Yes, I fucking love Baccano.
It's a very good show.
Yeah, and it's
a very good show.
Yeah, thing about Baccano, which this might be an interesting thing to talk about in a later episode, is just a lot of it has to do with the way that Baccano is structured. Without getting into too much detail, Baccano is not told in a linear fashion. It's 3 stories, all told out of order.
Yeah.
Because at first you do feel kind of lost, but the more you watch, the more you start to put the pieces together in your head, and it all makes more sense by the end. But
I have to be honest with Baccano. I should probably rewatch it. I liked Baccano, but it was a bit too really fast, fun for my taste. Like to be something I loved, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the thing
I am right now.
Yeah, but the thing that I think might make an interesting topic in regards to Baccano is, would Baccano's story be as effective if it was told in a more conventional fashion, as in more linearly?
No, but it would have been easier to get into because the first episode of Baccano is terrible. But no, it wouldn't have been.
Well, just because it's by design does not mean it's terrible.
No, it's terrible. It's alienating. It's confusing. It's a mess. It's not well written. It's annoying. It's not good. I've just stuck my external hard drive in because I have a lot of old stuff that never got released officially on here that I saw when I was younger. And so I'm just going to go through and talk. I'm just going to go through and see what any of these that stand out are, because there are some. So the Galaxy Express 39 movies. Fucking adore. Iron Robo, the OAV. I got to that late in high school. And the Earth stood still. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff I watched in my late 2000s. That I watched, since leaving high school. Like Animation Runner Kurumi, which is actually very funny. Ajun Galaxy Express 39, by the way, is the better of the 39 movies, but both are awesome. Oh, the Daikon movies. Those made such an impression on me. They're awesome. Cyber City 080808. That's a fun show.
Oh yeah, that's the one that's got the line.
Yeah. Bubblegum Crisis, the original 2040 does not exist, but the original is awesomeness. Golgo 13, The Professional. Go Shogun the Time Stranger. I take it you've never heard of this.
No, this does not sound familiar to me.
So you know how people will say Evangelion is a deconstruction of the mech genre? And it's not, because it still has the trappings of the mech genre. A deconstruction of the mech genre wouldn't have mechs in. Mm-hmm. Go Shogun the Time Stranger is an OAV movie type thing. I think it's an OAV technically, but it's, feature length. That was a follow-up to Go Shogun, which was a giant robot, super robot show. And this is a true deconstruction. There are no mechs in it. It's a weird, thoughtful art house movie that is absolutely genius, and that is also critical of Islam. There are radical Islamists in this.
Interest.
It is very much an art house film. It is very much, you remember how I was talking about Angel's Egg and how that is very much an art house film and very impenetrable, but well worth watching?
Yeah.
This is maybe a step or two behind that in terms of how impenetrable it is. It's very impenetrable, but it is well worth it. It is incredible. It's never been officially released. Or no, it has, but well back in the day. Way back in the day. It's well out of print. But it's not too hard to find some online. It's well worth watching. Crystal Triangle, which is terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Oh man, speaking of things that are terrible, I remember
Ghost Hunt. Really shows. Did you ever see Ghost Hunt? That show made a big impression on me when I was early on.
I hear the thing is, what's interesting about Ghost Hunt is the original subbed version plays it like a straight ghost.
No, you're thinking Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories is the terrible kids ghost thing that played it straight, and then when they dubbed it, they went, "Oh my god, this is terrible. We have to," and redid it with fucked up jokes. Ghost Hunt is a shoujo anime based on light novels about a high school girl who joins like a paranormal investigation like group, and there are actual ghosts and shit. Oh. It's not a horror. Believe it or not, it's largely not a horror. It's more a mystery kind of thing. It's actually very good. There is, however, one story arc called the Bloody Labyrinth story arc that is pretty scary and brilliant. It's actually very, very good. But yeah, I mean, Ghost Stories is pretty good, and I have it on here as well. That's fun, at least dubbed. Wandering Sun, already mentioned that. Oh, Jinro. Boy, Jinro will make an impression on a depressed person in their late teens, early 20s. Man. Other things that made a big impression. I already mentioned Madball 34. Oh, Mazinkaiser! It's the Mazinger Z kind of throwbacky giant robot thing that is awesomeness.
Oh, yeah.
Metropolis, I mentioned. Oh, Ava I mentioned. We've talked about Ava somewhat. We will probably do it again. Paprika. Paprika made a huge impression on me. That was the first Satoshi Kon film I saw. I've still only seen that in Perfect Blue.
Wow.
I have no excuse.
The first
because I have everything.
I have most of his
other things that I need to. Yeah. Project Eiko. Project Eiko is awesomeness, and there is no excuse not to watch it. And the manga dub for that is awesome and doesn't have a bunch of forced swearing. Now, have I told you the story about Project Eiko and why even the latest releases of it look like arse?
Because it...
Did I tell it on the podcast?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, so I need to tell this story. So this was CPM release.
Central Park Media.
Yeah, John O'Donnell. And I know this is a fact because Justin Svakis has talked about this on the A&N cast, and he used to work there. And he worked on the DVDs. You know, he did a lot of subtitling and stuff. So the master, in quotes, print that is used to this day to the discotheque release is the one they did, where the original master was lost. So They were like, well, what can we do? And they were looking for laser discs. And they ended up using a laser disc that was sent to them by a fan to copy from it. All under the table, of course. So it's copied from a person's laser disc. That's the master. That's where the transfer comes from. Still not the shadiest. Still probably not the shadiest thing that CPM ever did.
Yeah, well, most of it was John O'Donnell anyway. There's a reason why Media Blasters called themselves Media Blasters.
So CPM were the guys who also licensed Odin. And the story of how they did this was they went to Yoshinobu Nishizaki back when he was alive and went, can we get the license for Yamato? And he went, maybe. But I've got this other cool thing, Odin. License this and I'll give it to you. And so he licenses it and he comes back and goes. And then the funny thing is I heard this story from Mike Toole. Mike Toole told this story. I think it was on the Anime World Order episode where they reviewed that. And so they go back to them. I think it was CPM who released it. It feels like a CPM release, doesn't it?
It might have been.
And goes, well, we'll release that. Can we have Yamato? He goes, oh, I gave the rights to that to my buddy like years ago, some friend of mine years ago. He goes, oh. Yeah. The Daughter of 20 Faces, which is a flawed show, but a good mystery show that I saw in the sort of the mid-2000s. It's Madhouse. It's quite a fun show. Well, no, it's framed more as a mystery show, but really it works better as a coming-of-age story. But it's a good show. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff. Those are some of the things that spring out looking at things. If I still had my old My Anime List account details and remembered what that was, I could go in there and look at all the shit that I noted down. But yeah, man, my journey, it was a long one because I got into it real early and I knew what it was real early, especially as compared to someone like you. Oh, Monster's a great one.
Oh yeah, I remember
based on the Naoki Urasawa manga. Have you seen Monster?
I've seen parts of it. I can't remember if it was on Sci-Fi's anime block or Adult Swim's.
Sci-Fi had it. It's well worth watching. It is 74 episodes long, and I believe Viz tried releasing it and never released the whole thing in America. But the whole thing was dubbed, and again, there are ways to see it. It is very good. It has a very good dub, and it's something that someone needs to license, stick up on Netflix, and get it to the main page, because it is very much the kind of thing that if people who watch Mad Men or all these prestige sort of television dramas would like it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of Netflix, I mean, am I the one who finds it kind of awesome now that Netflix has sort of taken risks on putting anime on their site?
They have very little anime here. They had far more anime on here when they first started. But slowly they've been running. No, I mean like had less anime.
I know. I don't mean like anime in general. I mean like they put anime that are Netflix originals.
Yeah, so stuff they've co-produced. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got stuff. Now you can debate the merits of the individual
Knights of Sidonia.
That's
actually Knights of Sidonia apparently is fairly decent. Was that one they were involved in?
Yeah, it was. And there's Knights of Sidonia. There's Ajin, and there's Seven Deadly Sins. Those are just the ones. You know what Anjin and Knights of Sidonia have in common? They're both, besides both being CG animated.
I've heard both are pretty good, but both have some really janky CG in them. Yeah. But I have heard they're both decent. Actually, I don't know if that's what you've heard, but I've heard they're both fairly decent.
I've watched both. I've watched bits of both, and I would say yes, the CG looks very awkward. And I would say, especially in Knights of Sidonia's case, problem is the models, there's not a lot of distinction between them. It's kind of hard to tell people apart.
It's not good. Now again, let me be clear, like, I'm not saying that I've heard they're amazing, but I have heard they're decent.
Yeah, I mean, like, Knights of Sidonia is kind of It's kind of like an anime version, I want to say, of Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, I've never seen Battlestar Galactica anything, honestly.
Fuck, you missed out when it was on Netflix. I fucking loved that show. I mean, and I'm talking like the 2004 one, not the one from the 70s.
Let's see, because when was that taken off American Netflix?
I think it was taken off 1 or 2 years ago.
Because I think it might still be on Netflix here in New Zealand,
Possibly.
and I think it might be. I think
okay,
it might be on my list.
I am gonna warn
I'm
you.
gonna pull up Netflix.
I am gonna warn you. The last season, the last season of Battlestar Galactica gets super weird, but it's still good.
I like super weird.
Gets
I mean, you're talking to the person who watched. You're talking to the person who watched Lane. You know, at 12 or 13.
Super weird and metaphysical, and
let's see if it's on. Battlestar's one word, eh?
Yep, it is.
Nah, it's not. I thought it might have been, but I might have it confused with something else. Was Battlestar Galactica the thing where they said, it was either Battlestar Galactica or Stargate Atlantis. They got taken to court by someone who claimed that they were like plagiarizing them.
I don't think so.
And then they got no, and their defense in court was, no, we were plagiarizing Yamato, and they got Nishizaki himself to come into court and say they were plagiarizing Yamato.
Let me check that up.
This was the thing that apparently happened. God, you can't make this shit up, hey?
I'll look that up. I mean, it sounds more like something that probably happened. No, actually, Battlestar Galactica got into. It was more centered around Star Wars.
Yeah. So they were accused of ripping off Star Wars, and then their defense in court was to go, no, we were ripping off Yamato instead.
This had to be the original
and
one.
They apparently.
This would have had to be the original one in the 70s.
No, this was not in the 70s. This was way later, because the claim was that they were ripping off Yamato, as in Star Blazers. And this was a thing that happened much later than the 70s, I think. Oh, no. No, you might be right, because Nishi's... Oh, I'm not sure, man.
Yeah, I'm looking at one from lawstudentland.com. It says, in 1978, 20th Century Fox sued Universal Studios, alleging that Battlestar Galactica infringed on copyright created by Star Wars.
Okay, doesn't mention Yamato.
Let's take a look at further through the article.
I've googled the three together, and I'm not seeing anything. Damn.
Okay. 20th Century Fox claimed that Battlestar's use of a friendly robot who sides with democratic forces and is harmed by a totalitarian enemy constituted copyright infringement. Friendly robot characters are now extremely common in science fiction, but is there evidence that this fictional trope existed before Star Wars was released? Doesn't say anything about Yamato.
No, this is something totally different. This is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Come on, there was something that was lost. There was something that was sued. It might have been Star Trek Enterprise,
That's possible.
which I know borrows heavily from Yamato. Like people have said that Star Trek Enterprise's third season is basically the first season of Yamato, but transplanted into the respective continuity. Which actually, the first series of Yamato is the series I saw, because that was the one that was subtitled. When I saw it, that was the only one that was fan subbed at the time, and I was not really keen to watch Star Blazers.
Spaceship Battle Yamato, right? That's the name of the show?
Yeah, Space Battleship Yamato.
Space Battleship Yamato.
See, I'm just going to look up Space Battleship Yamato lawsuits.
Here's one. Apparently, Oh, it's from Channel Fucking Awesome. Apparently, someone's alleging that Sonic X plagiarized it, which, if it's from Channel Awesome, that's how you know Not even not bother with it.
That's how you know it's retarded.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I'm looking up on Google. I'm not seeing anything.
Neither am I, but this was an actual thing that happened at some point. It's not covered much.
Yeah.
If you want to know crazy lore stuff, oh fuck, I'm trying to remember what it was. Man, I don't know, man. I had something and I totally forgot it. Yeah, I can't find anything here. Space Battleship Yamato plagiarism lawsuit.
Well, we're obviously not going to find it within the confines of this episode, so let's just shelve that for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were.
All right, so I think how long have we been doing this?
2 hours 20 minutes.
Wow, we're bad at being short. All right, I think
brevity is not our forte.
No, yet I'm not too bad with wit.
No,
but I'm.
Yep.
All right, I think I was asleep last night. I think we're at the point where lack of sleep is making at least me slightly loopy, and we should probably wrap up soon.
Yeah, that might be a good place to leave off.
Now.
So, thanks for tuning in for episode 6 of the Yank and Kiwi.
Yes, thank you very much, anyone who actually listens to this.
Yes, and be with us.
Before we finish wrapping up, one of my internet friends, I mentioned that we did the podcast, and she's like, link me, I want to hear.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh god, you're gonna hear how annoying my voice is. And she goes, I did not expect your voice to be high like that. I'm like, oh god. It's kind of cute. I'm like, what? It's annoying. Although, as I said, it's not that it's high in pitch, it's that it's like bright and slightly nasally, as Kiwi accents tend to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you listen.
We're not as bad as Australians, because Australians talk out their fucking noses, mate.
So no, Australians are way more nasally, huh?
Australians are the worst, mate. Australians are the worst. I hate Australians. I hate Australian accents. Well, that was not an Australian accent by the end.
My best Australian accent is just me doing a Steve Irwin impression.
Oh, okay. We're redoing the sign out, and you're signing out as Steve Irwin.
Oh boy. Okay.
Or doing the impression.
Well, thanks for dropping by for another episode of Yank and Kiwi. Be here next week with us. Righty.